Yeah, I can hear that.
You can hear that. Okay, great. What's up, guys? Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. So, what Cindy and I were just talking about, I just had a delivery show up at my house, figures right now, and my dogs are going nuts. Even though I said, "Wife, put the dogs outside." Nope, let's not do that. Let's just leave them sit in here so they can bark like crazy.
It's harmony, Chris.
It's part of the deal.
Harmonizing.
Part of the deal. It's frustrating. Anyway, welcome to Home Broadcast with Chris. And it is what it is. So, Cindy, really excited. Today is week number 4 of our working together. So, super excited about that. What do we got today on our docket?
So, today is all about objections, baby. It's like we run into them all over the place. I know you get them every day. So, do we have a system for handling them? Do they drive us crazy? What's the deal, right? So, what do you think? Should we just jump right into it?
A couple quick housekeeping items, really quick, that I have for you guys. First of all, actually, I'm going to put that away for a second. We have our next live event. Just want to let you guys know that are watching with us live. We should have a lot of people with us today. First thing, we got our Chicago live event. It's all about baseball. So it's called the MSP of Dreams. Cindy's a huge baseball fan. I'm a huge baseball fan. It's all about the MSP of Dreams. This is August 15th, 16th, 17th in Chicago, Illinois. You can register right now at live.sevenfiguremsp.com. So you can do that. Go out there, register for that. Second thing, we are going to be giving away 2 gift cards today, 2 $100 gift cards. And then I have a special prize. Cindy, I didn't even tell you about this, but I have a special prize that we're going to be giving away. So I'm going to let Cindy just jump right into it. Cindy, I'm going to go off camera for just a second because I got to put the dogs outside. But I'm going to let you go. I'm going to show your screen here. So here we go on that. I'll let you just get rolling.
Okay, I'm just going to jump into it.
I think I can remove myself. Let me just test this.
Uh-oh, there's a scary thought.
Hold on, testing my test.
So for everybody that's with us, thank you for sharing your time. What today's about sharing with you some ideas on how to handle sales objections. Naturally, you'll have questions for me. I'll have questions for you. But at the end of our session today, what my fond desire for you is this, is that objections are something you feel stronger about handling and you have a system for how to do it. So a little bit about us, 7-Figure MSP. We're a sales and marketing coaching program for MSPs. It's a beautiful place. We've got a great environment. You might want to check it out. Our team, pretty extensive and always growing. You may have met Lindsay Badillo in the weeks before me and Ryan O'Hara, who's our VP of Member Services. So we're all here to help you. And you're probably here because you want to grow your business. So thumbs up for that. How do we finish 2023 strong? We got to improve our batting average. How do we improve our batting average? It all comes down to how we handle our interactions with our clients. So this week we're talking about objections. Okay. So for those of you that haven't been with us before, if you'll give StreamYard permission to see your username and stuff, then I can see your name on your comments. So I just want to say thanks to Melanie for joining today. I'm sure there are others of you out there that are here. So let me just dive right into it. Let's get busy. First, our sales system has 4 steps. First time appointment, discovery call, the cybersecurity risk assessment, and then when we share the results of that risk assessment and we close for service. So at each point in the sales process, you're going to hit objections, right? Sometimes those objections take the form of, I don't know what I want to meet next. Oh, I'll get back to you on that. We're not doing anything right now, whatever. Those can be early in. Or you'll get objections that are all around giving you access so that you can properly do the CSRA. Or there'll be objections around ultimately the cost of your service, the price that you share with the client. So what we want to do today is look at what's going on in our sales process and look at the objection for what it really is and ask the question, how can we have a system for interacting with our prospect or our client, right? And I know that you have objections. So in this past week, some folks have reached out through our various socials and given us some examples. And so specifically today, we're going to be talking about how to handle the client who ghosts you on decision day. So if there's anybody out there that wants to hear about how to handle a client that ghosts you, give me a hell yes in the comments and let me know that's something you want to know about. Okay. So, quick question. Are the sales objections different at each point in the process? And I would say to you, yes, they are. So the thing is, until someone's invested in their pain, the biggest objection you're going to have is some variation of, I don't want to meet with you. Now's not the right time. We're busy on another initiative. We've got something else going. But it all basically boils down to a delaying tactic. Okay. Procrastination, number one. Number two, as we get in further into the relationship, the second kind of objection that we run into many times has something to do with, I'm going to have to think about it. It's kind of analysis paralysis, right? Have you ever had that problem yourself where you're like, well, I'm not sure what I want to do. I want to think about it some, right? Pretty normal thing. I need to go do my research. I want to think about it. So, analysis paralysis, that's another thing. And then another type of objection we commonly run into is when people say, well, I'm not sure that this is exactly right for me. I'm seeking the perfect solution. We see those kinds of objections all the time. They take different kinds of forms, but when those objections come up, the real question is, how do you guide the prospect and yourself to a place where you can have a really authentic conversation about what their needs are and how you can help them, right? That's what it's all about. So, any objection at a glance consists of these 4 steps. First, we've got to listen. We've got to listen to what the client is saying, right? And to make sure that we've heard it right, we do need to probe. So if you're taking notes right now, I just want you to write down my 3 favorite words in the entire world. You ready? Tell me more. Here's why tell me more is such a favorite of mine when I'm meeting with a prospect or a client. If you're like me, you probably know a lot of stuff. I mean, you could slam technical details at people all day long, right? Or you could talk about all different kinds of things. But the real question is, are you going to give them an answer that helps them with their internal thought process? How would you know? You've got to narrow your focus when you're talking to people. And the easiest way to understand what's motivating someone in the purchase cycle is to have them tell you more. Tell me more about why you're concerned about that. Tell me more about why that's so important to you. Tell me more about the last time this happened and what it meant to you and to the company. Tell me more about what you really think is going on here, right? Tell me more can be used in a lot of different ways, but what it's going to do is it's going to give you more information before you start analyzing what you need to say in response. So look at this. First, we listen, then we probe, right? Then we think, we analyze, and then only after we've gone through those 3 steps do we respond. Okay. So I'm going to ask you guys to light up the chat a little bit here. And Chris is away. Oh, Chris is back. Okay. So Chris is going to help
I'm
me
here. I'm here.
make sure that I don't miss anything, because Chris will tell you I'm a single thread, man. There is no multitasking in this one.
There's
So-
multitasking as long as we don't involve technology. That's
Yeah, no, yeah,
We're good
exactly.
then.
That's the thing, right? Yeah, I'm a klutz when it comes to it. So anyway, here's the thing that I want to know. When you look at what you do with your prospects and clients, and you think of it in the 4 steps with the listen, the probe, the analyze, and the respond, which 4 of these steps is most difficult for you, right? So while you're typing in your answers, I'm just going to ask Chris. Chris, when you think about these steps, when you think about listening and probing and then analyzing and then responding, which one of those steps is most difficult for you?
I'd say probably the listen, this the stop and shut up and listen part is probably the hardest for anyone that has a technical mind.
And why do you think that is?
Because we want to have the answers right away. I want to solve the problem almost immediately.
So
And
did you guys just notice what I did to Chris? I got him to tell me more,
yeah,
right? Did you see that? So all along in this presentation, I'm going to be demonstrating the skills that you can be using, right? But now look at
and
this.
and you know what? I didn't realize you were doing that because it felt like casual Chris Cindy conversation.
Well, and that's really what happens when you stop and you slow down. You know, Chris teases me all the time that all I ever do is help people, encourage people to slow their roll. And the reason you want to slow your roll down is because it ultimately shows respect to the other person. And it really shows respect to yourself too, because it allows you to listen at a deeper level and get more tightly aligned. You know, people like to use the word align. We're in alignment. We're aligned. Well, can you really be aligned if you're not really listening? Right. And asking a probe, following up with a probe, right, is very natural if you've decided that you're going to take a breath, that you're just going to take a moment and let that happen. So, so that's really the deal. That's how it works, right? So you take that probe. Now, Chris, I'm also going to add in one more thing here. When you get into a conversation where you think the stakes matter, what happens is there's an internal dialogue that goes off in your head, right? Internal dialogue going off in your head. And the real objection that you have to overcome is your self talk, what's going on inside your head. So I'm fond of asking this inside our Inner Circle Elite coaching group, and I get a lot of hands raised when I ask this. When I say, do you ever negotiate with yourself before you go visit the client?
You want people that say yes to that, just even when we're talking about this on the webinars, is like insane, right?
Yeah, it's completely insane. So the first place an objection starts is in your head, right? So I want you to think about this from a listening point of view. You have preconceived notions and thoughts in your head before you even start. Is that going to impact what you hear? Are you going to be listening for something that you expect to hear and maybe missing a golden nugget? It could easily happen. So I just want to ask you guys, and again, you feel free to light up the chat if you'd like to, but do you create objections in your mind before you visit the prospect? And if you do, you're not alone because it happens all the time. Hell, I do it before I call Chris to talk to him, right? You might even do it with your spouse.
Yeah.
We do it in all relationships, right? Maybe that hits home a little harder, that we do it in all relationships.
Yep. Cindy, when you are at a pause, I want to take a quick timeout. Let me know when you're ready.
Let's take a timeout right now.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys know this, but we have been giving away some prizes on here. I have 3 prizes that I'm going to give away today. I have 2 $100 Amazon gift cards and your very own. Hold on.
Oh my God.
The very own Chris Weiser Sucks t-shirt, which has its very own Reddit channel that I didn't start. Now, this has become a big joke only because I think it's funny that somebody wastes their time saying how much I suck. So there's a big Reddit channel and a hidden Facebook group about how much I suck. So now you can have your very own t-shirt. So here you go. You got a Chris Weiser Sucks t-shirt. So we're going to be giving away 2 of those today. So you got 2 of those today, or so 1 of those today, and 2 $100 Amazon gift cards. You can register, and we're going to do a live drawing on today's call. Drawing.sevenfiguremsp.com. Cindy, we had some bugs last week, all fixed, so we're good to go. But you guys can do that. You guys can do that right now. So I'm going to hide that, and you can keep going.
Okay, so let's dive into the first time appointment. So in our sales model, we encourage you to open the conversation with the prospect with a 15-minute appointment. It's very important. It's only 15 minutes. What we're looking for in this first time appointment is values fit. We want to make sure they're right for us, we're right for them, okay? Think of it as a coffee date. Do not try to get married on the first date, okay? So in the first time appointment, we want to have an opening. We want to ask 3 big questions. We want to establish our shared why, and we want to set up our value hook and then set the next step in our sales process, which is the discovery call. Okay. Now, if you want more detail on exactly how to do the first time appointment, I want you to go to the IT and Business Owners Facebook group, and I want you to go into events and scroll back to last week's presentation because we did an hour on the first time appointment. So, when we get into the first time appointment, what are some of the common objections that we hear? Number one, we've already got an IT guy.
That's the biggest one, probably, right? We already got an IT guy.
Yeah. Number two, we just don't understand why we need one, right? Why would we need one, right? I'm an engineer, I can do it myself. I heard that today 3 times, right? Or there's just a complete negative mindset, right? My favorite though, my favorite objection is we have more pressing issues. We don't have time to focus on this, okay? So these are the kinds of objections you get around whether or not we have a shared why, a reason to work together. Let's say you get past all that, there is a reason to work together, but you're trying to get the next appointment. What kind of objections do you hear then? Absolutely no urgency. This just isn't a priority for us right now. Call me back in 6 months, right? Or there's some kind of quid pro quo going on, like, well, this has been great for 15 minutes, but what's your service going to cost? I call it the premature price ask. Okay. Premature price ask. And what happens is they don't want to give you their time unless you shoot your shot and give them a price. We don't do that. We don't do that. So what I'm going to show is I'm going to show you how to get around these objections. So let's take first example, which is we have an IT guy. So the first thing we want to do is we want to hear what the client says. Well, this is all very interesting, but we already have an IT guy, right? And the subtext behind that is, hey, listen, if they were happy, would they be meeting with you? If you have an IT guy and you're happy and someone calls you, do you set up a 15-minute appointment? No, you don't. If they meet with you, there is a level of dissatisfaction. There is a level of question in their mind about whether or not they're getting what they want. So prepare your response. Why did they agree to meet with you? It's not just idle curiosity. What you've got to do here is you've got to align with their priorities, right? So what you do here is you can either summarize their situation and get them to say that's right, or you can nod your head and say, you can nod your head and you can say, I understand. And then you just wait a beat. And this is the payoff question. How's that working for you? Now, some of you may be laughing because you realize that's Dr. Phil's question. Dr. Phil has built an empire on one question. How's that working for you? Right? Because once you're in a conversation with someone and you ask that question, boom, we're off to the races because they're going to be open and tell you how it's working. And then if you're following our methodology and leading with a security first mindset, a great probe is to ask the question, what type of discussions have you had with your IT guy about security? Right? And they're going to give you an answer. And then you can respond and say, our next step is about a 45-minute meeting, at the end of which we'll be able to align with your priorities and resources. We can even do it on Zoom. Would that work for you? Now, they've got a curiosity about you, or they would have shut you down already. An objection is not a shutdown. Make sure you've got that distinction in your mind, right? And if they still kind of say no, one of the things you can lean into is what happens when your current staff doesn't have the time or the skills to solve your problems, right? So all you're really asking them to put into the relationship is 45 minutes for the next step. You should be able to get that, okay? Another step one FTA problem is when people say, hey, you know what? This is all very interesting, but we're consumed with another project. And we're all hands on deck right now. Let me get back to you when things calm down. Now, you can either take that at face value and put them on your nurture, or you recognize that you haven't built enough urgency in their mind. And there's still a window of opportunity to do that. So What you want to do is you want to go back and you want to make sure you understand why they agreed to meet with you, right? Why did you agree to meet with us today? What was it that sparked your interest? And just go back and dig harder on that, right? And then when you listen to their answers, nod your head. I agree, right? Let me make sure I've got this right. Do I have this right? Summarize. They're going to say, yeah, that's right. That project sounds really important, right? And then what you do is you ask, how are you setting priorities given that you're all hands on deck? And you know where this is going. What's going to happen if they get attacked while this big important project is going on, right? And again, we can do this with just 45 minutes. We're not asking for a big commitment. And if you have an unexpected attack during your project, have you ever stopped to consider that criminals, if they're inside your network, they focus on companies that are under stress to strike? So hopefully that gives you some food for thought when people are trying to push you off. Now, when someone says they must have a price before they'll meet with you, and they tell you that they have a rule that they won't meet with you until they have some kind of idea what the price is for your ongoing service, right? I want to ask you a serious question. After talking to someone for 15 minutes, do you actually have enough information to give them an accurate price? I would contend that you don't, right? I would also contend that when someone has this rule, what they're really trying to do is tell you that price is their number one priority. And again, you've got a choice to make here. Is that the kind of client that you want? And so, what you need to do is you need to understand why price is their number one priority. And so, at this point, I would nod my head and I would say, it sounds like price is your number one priority. Tell me more about that. Is price the most important consideration for you? Right? And then let them know. And I'm fond of saying this, maybe Chris, maybe this is a little too outrageous, but if I were to shoot you a price after only talking to you for 15 minutes, I'd be concerned that I'm committing malpractice, right?
Well, and a thing to remember with this for everybody watching this live and on recording, they're used to getting price immediately because that's what they've always done. We got to understand that times are different now. We cannot prescribe without diagnosing in today's IT world. We all know that. Every IT guy knows that. What are the chances that a hack is resident? There's a lot of variables that are at play. It's also way deeper. Managing their risk now is way deeper than just counting up how many PCs they have and doing a math problem. So part of your role in the pre-sales and some of this is making sure they're educated that times have changed. We have to do things differently now. Threats are way up. Cyber attacks are huge. They're everywhere. Every one of these prospects knows someone that has gotten hit now. So making sure they understand this, obviously, following this exact path, but making sure that this is some of your groundwork and you don't fall into the same pattern that we always fell into, which is, okay, Mr. Client, dictate the entire path.
Exactly. Now, here's the other thing. I want to be very clear about why I can't shoot you a price right now. I understand that other people do it that way, but we find that that does not serve our clients well. Would you trust someone that can just pitch you a price without knowing anything about your business? Because one of two things is going on here. Either they pad their price so high to take care of any eventuality that might be there, or they shoot you a price so low because they want to compete on price that their business is fundamentally weak. And that's something we're going to see impacting MSPs as we roll forward in time. Your costs are going up. Your insurance premiums are going up, right? Can you really afford to just shoot people a low ball price to win the business? I'm not sure you can. Okay. So you need to have some pricing rules. How do we deal about price? How do we deal with price? So, number one, you actually need information to price accurately. We diagnose and then we prescribe. You can say to someone on the first time appointment, you can say, our minimum fee for any client is this number. And you can give them your minimum deal size. I call that your get out of bed number. I have a dear friend who once told me, Cindy, I won't get out of bed for less than a certain amount of money per month. That's where that comes from. Okay. So, my question to you, if you're listening to this right now, do you know what your get out of bed number is? Your minimum deal size number. Because if you're talking to someone who can't afford your minimum deal size number, better to part friends after 15 minutes, right? These are the kinds of businesses I'm looking for. Who can I refer to you? Let's shake hands and part friends. So, what is your minimum deal number? What is your get out of bed number? If you're willing to share it, pop it into the chat. So, Chris, do you want another little commercial? You have anything you want to share?
Let's go ahead and do that. So if you guys are just joining us, Cindy's presenting, but I'm here. I'm just looking pretty, I think, at this point today. We're giving away 3 different prizes today. We have 2 Amazon gift cards, 2 $100 Amazon gift cards that we're going to be giving away. Plus, you can win your very own Chris Weiser Sucks t-shirt today that we'll be sending out your way to one winner. So we got 3 prizes. You can register. You got to be here to win. Drawing.7figuremsp.com. So there you go. Go ahead, Cindy.
Okay, so now we're out of the first time appointment. Let's jump into the discovery call. So in the discovery call, what we're doing here is we're learning more about their business. We've got about 35 minutes to ask a prescribed set of questions, which are going to help us understand how they do business, what kind of technology they have, how their business operates, right? And it gives us a much tighter idea of what kind of services they're actually going to need. So we're gathering information, right? So we do this discovery call. And when we do the discovery call, we help them understand how it is that we actually do our work. And we talk and we explain about the cybersecurity risk assessment we're going to do, how we do interviews with everybody on the executive team, how we identify their security gaps, and then we help them understand why this process works so well. And then we ask them a question. Would you like to move forward with the cybersecurity risk assessment? Right? We actually give them a fixed fee for that engagement because that engagement is based on 3 factors. How many locations, how many people, and are they in a regulated industry? And with those 3 parameters, you can set a fee for the cybersecurity risk assessment. And so at some point in this discovery call, you're going to end up with some objections. And those objections are going to come up in different places. And when they do, they're going to come up about, well, hey, what's it take to do these interviews, right? And well, why should we do this? Why is this so important? We never had to do this before. And I thought you already did this, whatever it is. And then, well, gee, I don't know if we should move forward with a risk assessment or not, right? They're going to be legitimate questions or objections at each one of those steps. So let's break down how we handle those. First, let's look at the cybersecurity risk assessment objections about the actual work we're going to do. They're going to tell you they already have an MSP. That's great. When was the last time you had a security review? They're also going to tell you that their insurance agent says we're covered. Great. What does the agent actually know about cybersecurity or about security? The agent knows a lot about selling insurance policies. They're also going to tell you that they're too small to be hacked, right? And the truth of it is, the smaller you are, the more attractive you are as a target to be hacked. So they're going to give you all these objections. They're also going to claim that there's no urgency. There's no reason to move forward. They're going to tell you that they've already got a risk assessment, right? And they're going to say, why should I pay for a cybersecurity risk assessment? So let's break some of these down and see how you can handle those. So the first one I want to attack is, what do you say when they tell you that their insurance company says I'm covered. So when that happens, right, the subtext for that one is either I'm totally not interested or I really do believe my insurance guy. So you need to understand why they trust the insurance guy. Okay? Nod your head, say I understand, and here's the important pivot. When did you last speak about this? Now I want to dig into why that is so important. The game is changing so quickly with cyber insurance now. It's frightening. Okay? It's like, oh my God, it's changing every month. So if they spoke to them 2 years ago about it, they're dealing with outdated information. If they spoke to them 6 months ago, they're dealing with outdated information. So at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to help them discover that the insurance agent and they, as the business owner, do not have a shared interest. The insurance agent's interest is in selling the policy. The insurance company's interest is in denying any claim. The business owner wants the insurance to cover them and make them whole. So ask the question, have you stopped to consider what will happen if you have to make a claim? What that process is really like? Now, most of the time, probably almost all the time, they're not going to have thought past the point where they pick up the phone and call their friend, the insurance agent. And that's why the second question of, do you have an incident response plan, is so powerful. Because we know the answer to that is no. So there, we're asking questions to point out gaps. And then we're going to wrap it up by saying, you know what? It's very common for insurance to tell you all as well, but who suffers the most when you need to make a claim? You and your business or the insurance company? Would it at least make sense to understand where your security gaps are and what it means for you, right? What are the gaps and what does it mean for you? Because I'll guarantee you the security company, the insurance company doesn't really care. Not as much as the business owner. And this is really a big point about our sales process and about what we're doing. Nobody cares about what happens to the business more than the business owner. And what we're doing with this process of using cybersecurity risk assessments in our sales process is we're helping the business owner have the actual facts, current facts, on which to base a decision that can help keep their business as safe as possible and make them less of a target, right? So that's what we're trying to do here. If they tell you they've already had a cybersecurity risk assessment, this is an important statement. What you want to do is you want to dig in and you want to find out what type of cybersecurity risk assessment was done, exactly what was done, and why they didn't take any action based on it. Okay, so here's the thing. If you go and get like what I call a simple risk assessment, where somebody just does some scans and sends you a report and it's almost like a freebie, right? It's just coming across and it's a freebie. As the receiver of that information, how invested in it are you if you get it for free? It might as well just be a piece of marketing literature. You don't have any shared skin in the game, right? You didn't have to like ante up to get the cards. Somebody just threw some cards at you. Are you invested in that game? No, you're not. So what happens when they get a really light CSRA, the risk light bulb hasn't gone off in their head and they haven't connected the dots that they need to do something because they haven't even made the first commitment to find out where they really are.
And one thing that's also happening, Cindy, that we've definitely seen with our clients,
right,
is people running into we had our previous IT guy do a network assessment. So they're confusing the depth of a real cybersecurity risk assessment, which we highly recommend you do. They're confusing the depth of that with, they came in and scanned our network, or we have virus scans, or like we have all this other stuff. So you have to be very clear as to what that really means. Just like Cindy had there, it's really important that you know what you're talking about.
Now, when they do come back and tell you, encourage them. Excellent. That's really good news. But then ask to see the findings. Now, if they'll pull the piece of paper out and show it to you, the next thing is the greatest probe in the world, which is this: what actions did you take? Now, the example I want to give you here is how many of us have had clients who've said, I don't want to do multi-factor authentication, it slows everything down, right? Somebody can get a report and get findings and then fold up their arms and say, I'm not doing that. That's too much of a pain. And they leave the gap wide open for the criminals to drive through. So you want to know early on, is this a company that takes action? Or is this a company that somehow gets caught up and doesn't move forward? Right? So ask why or why not. And then make sure that they understand that what you do is a professional consulting engagement for a fee that is much more comprehensive and spends much more effort on the people side of the equation, because as FBI agent Andre Edwards told us a couple of weeks ago in Nashville, the biggest opening into any business is the people. And he actually calls the people the software. The soft way into a business is through the people. Okay, so we want to do that. Now, if they come along and tell you that your CSRA price is too high, then what you need to do is understand why they don't think it's worth it. We give guidance on how to price CSRAs, and they're not expensive. It's really a reasonable price for the amount of work that's being done. And what you have to do here is you just have to hit price right on the head and ask this question: is price the only issue keeping you from moving forward? So you want to nod your head, you want to understand, and you just ask, is price the only thing keeping you from moving forward? And if you ask that question, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say no, because there's more stuff keeping them from moving forward. And you want to get that stuff exposed. And if price really is the issue, that's good to know early on, because you want to know whether or not they have got a mindset to pay for professional IT services at the rate they need to be charged at. So ask them, what price would you consider reasonable, or one that you could say yes to, just to get a benchmark of where their thinking is. Now, has anybody ever had a prospect or a client throw out an absolutely insulting number to them? We probably all have, where they'll say, oh, I'd pay $100 for that, when it's really worth $10,000. What that does, when you get them to tell you the number, it gives you a good gauge on how much education you're going to have to do. And so, Chris, I don't know if I've ever told you the story, but this is a perfect time for this story. So Carl and I, we moved into a new house. We're going to do landscaping. We haven't paid for landscaping in 100 million years, right? So we fill out a web form and we tell people we're willing to pay $5,000 to landscape an entire acre. How many people do you think called us back? Nobody, right? Because the price was like so small, we weren't even in the ballpark. But we had a guy come out with a diagnose and prescribe model, just like we do for IT services. And when he came out to diagnose our situation, we basically ended up spending like 40 grand, right? And the reason we spent so much was because he helped us understand how that was going to help us get what we wanted, right?
And he educated you, right? He came out,
Right.
asked questions,
Exactly.
realized that you didn't know what you were talking about because you haven't done that.
Right.
If not, in a long time, if not ever, and made the sale.
Yeah. And the other thing he did is he sold us a first service for a fee that's the same price that we sell cybersecurity risk assessments at for small businesses. And we paid that fee, and it applied toward our future service. But we paid that fee because he had knowledge that we didn't have. He had a vision we didn't have. And we wanted to see if we were in alignment. And we thought, we'll pay this little bit of money. It was $1,500, which is what most of our people charge for a CSRA. And we wanted to see how he did that work. So a CSRA gives the client a way to qualify you, as well as you a way to qualify the client. So keep listening. when they throw up on price, find out what's behind it. Explain here's what it costs and why, and don't be afraid to share details at a high level. So here's how I would do that. We put our best technical people on the CSRA. It's the most important piece of work we do. It's very comprehensive. We put over 40 hours of manpower into this. Sadly, our fee is the lowest possible level. We'd love to do it for less, but we can't sacrifice scope. Do you want to understand your risks and have a roadmap that you can use with any technology provider to cover those risks? Right? Do you want to understand your gaps? So, do you see what we're doing here? We're actually having a conversation that goes back and forth while we're working on this stuff. Now, when we go out to execute the CSRA, we again get different kinds of objections. And here, people will say, oh, you know what, the executive sponsor, the owner of the business is too busy to meet with you, right? Or other key players don't want to participate. Or let's delay the findings presentation. Or, they've got an MSP, my favorite, they've got an MSP that doesn't want to give you access so that you can run the phishing campaigns and the things you need to do. So we're going to break down those, right? So the client says, hey, right, this is all very interesting, but we're consumed right now in another project. Let me get back to you when things calm down. Well, this doesn't happen when you charge a fee, right, for the engagement. But when you get into actually executing the engagement, sometimes the fee, they forget that they paid the money for it and they still want to delay stuff, right? So what you got to do is you've got to say, hey, well, why did you agree to do this CSRA? Why are we moving forward? And you have to keep getting them to understand that we're only here because you asked us to be here, right? That project sounds important. Our next step is, a 45-minute meeting. Make sure we'll align with your priorities. We can do it on Zoom. How does that work for you? Right? You just keep working the problem. And if you're not getting any cooperation, we want the CSRA, but we don't want our current MSP to know we're doing this work. That happens all the time. And they're afraid of their current MSP. We want to leave, but we don't know how, right? We don't want to ruffle feathers, right? So how do we do this? You need to help the client rethink the current situation and let them know it's just a professional services consulting engagement and nothing more. You're not asking them to make a decision to leave their MSP. What are you concerned about as we communicate with your MSP? Every professional MSP is going to understand the scope of our CSRA and how to limit our access to only what is needed for the assessment, and we can help you with that communication. That's how we want to do it, right? So when we get to the closing table and you've got the cybersecurity risk assessment put together and you know where their security gaps are, then the question becomes, what kind of objections do we see here? So the first thing that happens is they're going to say to you, particularly if you are the incumbent MSP, we thought you were already doing this work. They're going to tell you that the price is prohibitive. It's way too high. They're going to tell you that they're going to go after and get other bids. And they're also going to tell you that they're more comfortable with risk and they don't believe they need to change. We don't need something this comprehensive. They might even say, you're trying to scare us into buying something. We hear this all the time. And so what we've got to do is we've got to have a game plan. We got a pre-game, baby. We got to have a game plan on how we're going to respond to each one of these. So we'll just look at a couple of them. But my recommendation to you is that you have a game plan on what you're going to say, right? And remember, the most important thing to do is to listen and probe, summarize what they tell you, get them to say that's right, and then offer a new question. So, aren't you already doing this, right? You're supposed to do everything we need. Didn't you say you were proactive care, right? And they're angry. The subtext behind this is they're angry. They don't want to change. They really do believe you're doing this, right? And What you've got to be listening for is how emotional are they? Because emotions fuel action, right? So the immediate response is to nod your head and say, I understand. And then what we've got to do is we've got to help them recognize that things have changed. And when we help someone recognize that things have changed, it's also changed for you. I don't know if you're running an MSP, if you remember how difficult it was for you when you got that phone call from your insurance agent that said your cybersecurity insurance was going up by a factor of 2 or 4 or 6x. How was it for you when you realized you couldn't do business the way you used to do it? Did you have a moment of angst? Did you get angry about how many hackers and criminals are out there taking our hard earned money out? So here's an opportunity for you to be vulnerable and for you to be real and let the reality of the situation really sink in. Most business owners aren't willing to do that. When you do that and you share that, you're going to build an emotional bond. And it's really great to just ask, do you understand how much the situation has changed in the last 2 years? It's also okay to ask, what have I failed to make clear to you today? Because you wouldn't be there talking to them about their security gaps if you didn't know that they had a risk that they needed to manage. Now, when they come back and tell you the price is too high, it's just too high to consider. Folks in our program many times are pitching things at a very, very big price increase. Okay. When they push back on price, what they're really telling you is they want the service, but they can't wrap their head around spending that much money right now. Right. And so what you need to do is understand if price is the only objection. So is price the only obstacle, or is there another issue in the way? So first thing you can ask, if the price is too high, you can just ask them, what's your next step? If this price is too high, what's your next step? You can ask them, is price the only obstacle? But based on whatever answer they're going to give you, you need to get real with them. Let them know that you understand, and then ask what would need to change for you to be able to afford the service. And Chris, we got this question directly from you. We know how well it works. It's this question: what would you need to cut?
And here's another thing that they need to understand, that you need to actually ask: what would happen if you do nothing?
Exactly.
Right. Chris Voss taught us that one a couple weeks ago.
What would happen if you do nothing? Okay. Now,
How much is that going to cost? Yes, right now, it won't cost you anything, but what's the long-term cost? Note, they have to understand this. Part of your sales process here is no longer just quoting on an item. They have to understand the cost of inaction.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Okay, so let's make sure. Let's see what I've got here. Let's see if I can get the next slide. Here we go. Okay, so at every point in the process, there's an opportunity for objections. But every time an objection comes up, it's an opportunity for a really authentic conversation. Okay, so if you identify what the hardest part is in each one of these steps, right? If you identify where your natural inclination is, then what you can do is you can say, okay, how do I program myself to go at this a little differently? And that's why I like the structure that I put together in these slides that we just went through, where the client says something and we break it down. And the first thing we do is we ask, okay, what are they really trying to say to me? All right. Can I get them to tell me more about why it's so important or why they believe it, right? Or what it really means? And then once they've told me more, do I really understand it? Can I reflect it back to them and get them to give me a that's right? So I know I'm on the same page and they know I'm on the same page, right? Now we're solving a common problem, right? We have a shared interest, we're solving a common problem. So now I need to think about it. And as I think about it, now I'm going to respond, right? Now I'm going to come back with what our options are. And I want to encourage everyone to realize no is a strong option for you. If your clients don't want to change, if they don't want to take the basic steps they need to take to keep their business safe, at some point you're going to have to ask yourself, are these folks right for me? And many times, Chris, we hold on to a client or we hold on to a situation because we're rooted in the idea that that's the only game in town. And we've seen through the world that we work in that leads can really be infinite. And when the lead engine starts flowing and you're not just relying on word of mouth referrals or one lead a month, when you start really getting leads flowing, your ability to be more selective really helps you handle objections because you embrace what you stand for and what you stand against, what you tolerate, what you won't put up with, and all of a sudden the quality of your customer comes up.
Well, we're also going down that path now where you guys, as IT people, managed service providers, managed security service providers, you can't say yes to everyone. I know you want to in your head, you really want to say yes to everyone, but you are in a place where you cannot, especially as, I mean, if we fast forward, if we rewind a year from where we are right now, Cindy, look at the differences in what the market looks like,
Oh, it's
specifically from
amazing.
an insuranceability compliance standpoint. What's it going to be like 12 months from now?
Well,
So
the
you have to
FTC
start thinking
safeguards
about
are going
all
to
of
have a big
that.
impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're going to have a big impact. So a lot more people are going to be in the game in the next 12 months because we've got regulations coming down the pike. FTC safeguards is just the first of many that's going to basically put businesses in a vice. On one side, you got the criminals pushing them. On the other side, you've got insurance, you've got regulation coming. They're getting caught in a vice and they're going to have to evolve. They're going to have to change. And so are you. So I hope this has been helpful for dealing with objections. And Chris, there's one more objection that I wanted that's not in the slide deck that I
Mhm.
told folks that we'd be sure to talk about today, and that's this. What do you do when people ghost you on decision day or on the follow-up day when you're looking for that yes, no on your proposal? Okay. So I just want to hit that one and we'll hit it again probably
I think that's a really
today.
good one because now part of this is looking at your internal sales process. Just from my side as owner of a company, some of this is looking at your own internal sales process and making sure that you're doing research and you're having a good relationship moving forward. And I also would caution of having this mindset of, oh, I can eliminate everyone. You're not going to eliminate all these variables because you can't control everyone, but you can surely, with controls and the right process, minimize a lot. So that's there as well.
Okay, so here's how we avoid getting ghosted at the tail end of the sales process. Okay, let me be very clear. You've already made the CSRA presentation, you've set up the next follow up meeting. That day and time has come. They have not shown up for the meeting. They're not responding to emails. They're not responding to your phone calls. Okay, so the first thing we want to know about every client, and I want you to do this in the first time appointment, I want you to ask them, what is the best way to get a hold of you? Right? If the house burns down, right? Your primary dominant way of getting a hold of someone. I promise I won't use it unless it's a dire emergency, but I've got to have a red bat phone where I can get a hold of you. Okay? Then I don't want you to use that number. If they give you their personal cell phone number, don't use it. But when we get to the point where they've blown you off for a very important decision day meeting, right? That's when you pull out the bat phone. Okay. And you either send a text or you leave a voicemail that says this. What's happened? Because you've been working with someone and they've been operating in good faith and everything's going great, and then all of a sudden they ghost you. Hey, this is Cindy. This is an emergency call. I just want to know if you're okay. What happened? Hang up, right? They're going to have to call you back and tell you they're not dead, right? Because here's the thing, you've been working together, but then they ghost you. What's going on, right? If that doesn't work for you, then you're going to do the standard close the file thing. You're going to wait till 8:30 at night one night. You're going to call them up and you're going to say, "Hey, listen, you've missed the last 2 meetings. I'm getting the feeling that you don't want to talk to me. You don't want to move forward, and I respect that choice. I just want to let you know I'm going to close your file. I won't be calling again. You know where we are. When something happens, give us a call. If ever there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know. Give me a call." But you
So
close
while you're finishing this, Cindy, I'm going to
Yeah.
throw up our quick little banner here about our prizes.
There we
Got
go.
5 minutes left in today's webcast, guys. I'm going to leave this up here so you can sign up. Cindy and I are going to keep going through a couple things. We also got a couple of questions for the record. We're giving away 2 $100 Amazon gift cards and a Chris Weiser Sucks t-shirt.
Hey, Chris, I just want to know, are you going to include the Apple Watch face?
We probably can include the Apple Watch face.
There you go.
Pretty easy to
Okay.
make.
Right.
Just got a message from Cody. He said, "Can I win one for every day?" I mean, if you want 7 shirts, I guess come back 7 times.
Okay, listen. So whenever we do these sessions, one of the things that really helps us is if you'll take the time to let us know what your one key takeaway from today is. And I know that we have a lot of folks that watch these recordings later. So if you're watching this on the recording, I want to invite you to make a post inside our Facebook groups and just say, "Hey, I watched the recording on handling objections, and my one key takeaway from that session was," fill in the blank.
And you're welcome to actually comment on the post that you're watching this in as well, because it's all the posts show up in the actual, whatever medium you're watching it on. So we got multiple Facebook groups, we got LinkedIn, we got YouTube. All those are across the board. So you guys are welcome to do that.
That's a great idea. Because if you'll tell us what your one big takeaway is, that helps us tune the machine, right? It's like tuning a guitar.
That's from Cody right there. This process works. I love it, Cody. Thanks, brother.
Yeah. So that's great. That really, really helps. And Chris, that pretty much wraps it up for me. Once we get the takeaways, the one big thought that everybody got, I'm in pretty good shape. So did we run a timer on the?
Yep, we still got about 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. Anything else that you want to cover, Cindy? I know we had, one of the big things that I will say, so 2 minutes, 45 seconds. One of the big things that I will say that I see from MSP people is they get a lead. They're so excited to go in and get the deal that they skip process entirely.
Yeah.
And you skip this entire thing. And it's so critical that you have this, and you have to follow, it's really important that you follow the FTA process into the actual pitching the cybersecurity risk assessment, into the risk assessment, into actually closing the deal. Can we get a little bit, how can we fix some of that? Because so much of handling objection handling, most of it is actually about eliminating the objections before they happen.
That's right.
Talk about that a little more.
So that kind of takes us right into my very last slide, which is what's the one thing you're going to implement in your business today? So here's the thing. When you develop a pattern, right? When you do the same thing at different points in time in your sales process, what ends up happening is that you relax. And when you relax, your ears open and get bigger. When your ears open and get bigger, all of a sudden you're able to pick up on all the cues that the prospect or the client is sending you. And it makes things a lot easier for you in actually doing this work, right? It makes things so much easier for you. And you don't have to sweat it when you're going to go out and meet with somebody. A lot of people do. We get choked up, we get tight when we're going to have to go meet with somebody and we're not sure what we want to talk about. And this is why structure is your friend. Okay. We're big believers in structure inside our program. I'm a huge believer in structure because I can't remember anything. And so when you have your structure and you just follow your steps all the time, you always have all the data you need and you know where you are, right? And that's when we have problems, is when we don't know where we are and we're not sure what our next step is going to be.
Yeah, got about 30 seconds left in our drawing, guys. So please get registered. Drawing.sevenfiguremsp.com. I still have some coming in here. If you're watching with us live, this is what you get. Free stuff. Two Amazon gift cards. Chris Weiser sucks. Hold on.
I love that shirt. Okay, so we have one more comment that came in that's just beautiful, and it's the pause followed by, how is that working for you? Okay, now I love that comment. I also love that technique, because with that technique, that is an opening. That's an opening for someone to share with you how something's working. And it's not very often that we ask someone, how are you? How's that working for you? In a way where they know that we care.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're going to get completely different information, and it's going to put you on a completely different trajectory.
I agree. I'm getting ready. I'm importing our names right now into my wheel.
Cool.
Here we go.
So Chris has got this great piece of automation now to pick winners on things. And he and I have so much fun, because sometimes people are like, oh, I don't know if it's worth it for me to type my name
You didn't
in.
have that many entries today. I'm not super happy about this, but
so here's the thing. So that's why I'm talking about this. I don't actually know how many you have in, but I know based on Monday that some folks didn't put it in. So here's the thing. If we only have like 6, 8, 10 people who put their name in, what are your odds you're going to win? Pretty doggone high, right? I'd be putting my name in all the time, Chris. I mean, there you
Baron
go.
Breathitt wins.
Hey, Baron!
Wins
Awesome.
the Chris Weiser Sucks t-shirt for Baron. Baron, let us know what size you are, sir. We'll send that your way.
Awesome.
I'll even autograph it for you if you want.
There you go.
Okay, next one.
This is so cool.
Here we go. We only had like 10 entries today. That's kind of minimal.
Like I'm telling you,
guys got to pay attention.
In, right?
Next one, Benjamin Alvarez. Congratulations, Benjamin. You get a $100 Amazon gift card.
Way to go, Benjamin.
Winners.
Awesome.
Send an email to info@sevenfiguremsp.com. Next one up. There's our last one, $100 Amazon gift card. 2, looks like James Langan. Congratulations,
James. Way
James.
to go.
You get another $100 Amazon gift card. Great job today. Very excited. Awesome job, Cindy. Okay, any parting words? If you guys want it all, please put that in, send an email to info@sevenfiguremsp.com. One takeaway from Melanie. Have you stopped to consider what will happen if you don't make a decision? If you do nothing?
And that's really our true competitor, right? The do nothing is the true competitor in nearly every deal.
Yep, 100%. Okay, Cindy, great job today. We'll be back next week, guys. I got Ryan O'Hara going to be back with us. We're going to start working on the cybersecurity risk assessment stack and the cybersecurity stack itself. So we've got 4 straight weeks working with Ryan O'Hara. So what we do in these live videos is we do 4 weeks of marketing, 4 weeks of sales, which we just finished with Cindy, and then 4 weeks of tech with Ryan. So we're going to talk cybersecurity risk assessment, the tools. We're going to talk cybersecurity risk assessment, the performing. We're going to talk actually implementing cybersecurity and full MSP stack for your clients as well. So Cindy, any parting words from you today?
No, that's it. Just have a great time. Thanks for being with us. Really appreciate you checking in with us. So thanks.
Yeah, really good time. Cindy, great job for the last 4 weeks. We'll see you guys soon. We'll see you next week, and have a great day. Go make some money. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.